Ageism. What exactly is it? How does it even affect the art community? And how to avoid this issue? Today we are discussing this rather recent issue within the art community that comes up about an artist's age. I've asked my friends to give me their opinions about this issue, as well as my own followers on Instagram and even my own issue with this topic. Let's first start off with what exactly is ageism? Searching up online, the definition of ageism is as follows. Ageism is a form of discrimination where people are mistreated based on their age. It is rooted in a lack of knowledge, prejudice, and stereotypes. Despite being a form of discrimination, ageism is often not taken seriously, and it is even considered one of the last socially acceptable prejudices. Alright, now that we have the definition of ageism, let's look into how it affects the art community and artists in general. We've all seen many artists on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and other art-sharing platforms, some of which seem to get more attention and praise because of their young age. Now, this raises some questions. 1. Is the artist really the age they claim to be? And 2. Why are younger artists more appreciated? Let's start off with the first question. Is the artist really the age they claim to be? Around late 2023 to around mid-2024, it had become a trend for artists all over TikTok and Instagram Reels to share their drawings, usually followed by a caption like, "Try to guess my age based on my art," or "I am something years old artist, here's my art," which have gotten a lot of attention and a boost in algorithm. It made a lot of artists grow. However, in 2024, people have gotten incredibly tired of that trend, and it became a lot more obvious that people began hopping onto it, lying about their ages, just for attention and comments to boost their videos into the social media algorithms. Now, moving on to the next question. Why are younger artists more appreciated? Let's look back at the definition of ageism for a second. The more important part for this topic, rather, it is rooted in the lack of knowledge, prejudice, and stereotypes. Usually when you think of a 13 to a 16-year-old, you'd imagine a little kid who probably finds more enjoyment in outdoor activities such as skating, sports, and other activities rather than someone who would choose to spend their time drawing and honing their art skills. I believe that is where the amazement from the viewer stems from when they see art they like, only to be left in more awe when they find out the artist is much younger than them. However, it can also have a negative impact and cause a lot of self-esteem issues towards the older artists who will feel inferior in skill and comparison to the artist. Alright, now that I've somewhat answered these questions, I'd like to share the opinions of my friends and people I've interviewed about this issue. It's the most important part of the video in my opinion, and there is a lot to say by a lot of people with so many different experiences. Okay, so my opinion is that I don't really see why younger artists need to be pushed by the algorithm. Yes, they are talented and it's nice to have some recognition, but it doesn't make older artists less talented. Even worse, older artists need to be pushed by the algorithm because they are the ones that do commissions and actually need money. I'm not against younger artists because as long as they are old enough to be on the internet, it's really none of my problem. The problem is that the support a young artist became a trend and pushed tons of younger artists. Older artists got discouraged and might start thinking, I'm not a child prodigy. What else do I have to offer to impress people? Ageism. Well, I guess I can say I understand a bit of where it comes from, because you have honed your skills for a long time, only for someone far younger than you to display a whole lot more of a natural gift for the thing. Or, if you're a young upstart of an artist and you see someone who's done it for far longer, just make it look so easy. So, in my opinion, I understand where it comes from. But I do think it's a small problem, and it causes some unnecessary discrimination in the art community, especially since, in the end, we just want to draw. Personally, if I see a skilled 13-year-old artist There really is nothing wrong with wanting to show off their skills in social media or utilize marketing or engaging techniques to get their reels viral. Though if they're using captions like, "I can't believe a 13-year-old drew this," they're bound to attract jealous people and haters, as do everyone else in any circles. This is where I think the 13-year-olds should be cautious with how they handle it, because I have seen many young artists get absolutely mentally effed to the point of unalive ideation or leaving social media. Atsushi was mutual when I was 16 and she was 12, and I warned her about the dangers of using social media. But because she was a really skilled artist with 200k plus, nobody was warning her. Yup, years later some drama happened. She was allegedly accused of being a horrible person IRL, and she left when people threatened to hurt her. The ageism works both ways. If you're a horrible artist at a young age, you get quote-unquote supportive artists who say you're doing well, and then, of course, the trolls who bully you for bad art. This was my case. I was cyberbullied by 20-plus-year-olds on DeviantArt when I was 13. Then, you have the very skilled artists who come to social media at 12 or 13, often getting praised for their good art but not warned by their own community to stay off the internet, or be warned for potential mental health harm. And then, when jealous people start mass commenting, it makes the young artist feel awful. Basically, yes, I do believe ageism in our communities are a thing, because it's a lose-lose situation. You attract potential trolls for being bad at art at a young age, and jealous haters who would say, "Wow, I'm 20 and still not good enough," guilt-tripping trauma dumpers if you're good at art at a young age. Personally, I haven't seen it being a problem in the art community per se. Maybe not in the way people would imagine, like older artists being looked down on. I guess it's more of an issue of, I wish I had the tools younger people had available since the beginning so I could improve as fast as them. I think ageism is a problem in general and fandom specifically, because if you're over the age of 20, you start getting those "you should go pay your taxes instead of participating in fandom culture" excuses that are meant to make your opinions invalid. So, if you tie fandom and art together, then ageism is indeed a problem there too. Also, if you're a not safe for work artist, you definitely get some form of slack. Even though no matter how many warnings you put, you can't stop all minors from looking at your art and maybe calling you a weirdo, even though it's not made for them at all. From what I've been seeing lately, there has been a surplus of ageism in social media in the art community, and it will stay for some time. I see it a lot, especially on Instagram Reels. The popular trends like "support a 10-year-old artist," and the comments are mostly walls of people older than them being jealous and ashamed of their own work. Even quitting art altogether because a younger artist is much more talented than what they can create, even though they have more experience. They would go as far as creating fake personas and pretend to be a 10-year-old and post the trend online to get clout. I've experienced and seen it firsthand, my friends leaving due to this reason. But now I've grown and realized that everyone has their own progress. Some people hit milestones early, while it may take time for others, and that's okay. You run your own race. Not compare yourself to someone else's. Compete with yourself instead of others. Art is not about being the fastest or youngest. It's about creating your art in your own space, at your own pace. We are all walking in different paths, so walk on yours and continue to progress. That's all that matters. I was affected by ageism, especially when I started, because I started drawing at 19. A real ton of artists are already big and popular by that age, and I barely started. Not only that, but learning art becomes more difficult as an adult because you can't just pick things up but need more analysis and explanations. It's not impossible. I learn fast when given those things, but I just can't look at things and have it immediately click. I don't mention my age much anymore, but in 2020 it was rough because I was basically told I missed my chance to be an artist and kept comparing myself to other 19-year-olds or younger who have 10 years of experience when I had like 10 hours. I also think if you take an older artist and put them next to a 16-year-old who can draw well, people will simply gravitate to the 16-year-old one because it's more impressive than someone who practiced for 16 years. I think that's where ageism is even more aggressive than excluding older people, because I feel like being under 18 simply makes you more interesting to people, cause wow, impressive. My generation had pretty bad resources. Good stuff started appearing in 2021-ish. Even in 2020, there weren't good learning resources. I think it's simply easier for younger generations to learn too, which makes ageism worse, cause when I was 15 or 16, the art tutorials I see from that era are mainly realism. There's nothing anime related. I think the sensationalization of all hobbies and professions is the root of many of these issues due to the fast-paced, mass-producing nature of social media. Inevitably, it changes the lens in which people perceive value and also obstructs our perception of the population as a whole. What we see is truly just a small yet saturated sample of the population, yet many of our views are biased, because this is all we are made to see. Media in general, our current social media even more so, is meant to push out things that are sensationalized, things that will gain more and more traction. That is the algorithm. And it is so effective because it feeds off of human behavior. We are drawn to novelty and dopamine, and therefore instant gratification. These days, social media is so fast-paced, and it's only gotten more and more prevalent with the sharp increase in short-form content. The reason for all of this essentially plays into profit. Hashtag capitalism and consumerism for realsies. All for making money off of people. Our views have been altered into extremes for this reason. Like the increase in entrepreneurial endeavors, and all the get-rich-quick schemes that reshape our thinking as a society. Many young people have been so heavily molded by this, and younger generations as a whole are made to strive for ultimate success as early as possible. And because of social media, it no longer seems as far out of our grasp because we see it happen to others. It's not as distant of a pipe dream, and seems all too feasible, and even somewhat expected, because what we do see is so heavily saturated with this. In order to keep up with the media, society has been put into a rush. Work culture is now about grinding as hard as possible, taking up as many side hustles as possible, and this has translated into media and recreation as well. It's resulted in a glorification of content-making machines in order to keep up. And it gets many people drained as they strive to match the pace of the internet, posting 12 times a day and creating content until they've exhausted themselves mentally and physically. Sorry I've gone on such a lengthy prelude, but it's an important thing to understand when we consider ageism in the art community. When we take into consideration our society's aforementioned values, it makes sense. The sorts of content or media causes such a buzz is superlatives, extremes, the best, the most exciting. We are drawn to that. So, of course, people will capitalize on that, and there's nothing inherently wrong with doing what works. People take notice when young people do incredible things. People get talking, and due to the way social media has shaped our values and desires and biases, it stirs up a lot of thoughts or emotions. Jealousy, envy. Understandable, I suppose, who is the general population of media. On Instagram, aged 18 to 24 years is 30.8%. Aged 25 to 34 years is 30.3%. Aged 13 to 17, 8%. Sampling bias, what we see is not representative of what is, causes low self-esteem, especially when paired with hustle culture. Newsflash, you are not a failure if you haven't succeeded in your adolescence or early adulthood. You don't need to keep up with the impossible pace the media sets for you. The age demographic that makes up the majority of it, these perspectives have a stronger grip on young adults who have grown up with social media, prone to feeling like more of a failure. But yeah, personally, I think value in art is not derived from such a thing. Society has forgotten art is for fun and it is beautiful. And I implore you to create for the sake of creation, for the sake of having the freedom to do so, for joy. Your art has value inherently in the fact that art was made. Ooh-wee, there were so many interviews I read through, and hopefully some of these helped you understand others' perspectives as well. Because as you can see from all of these interviews I've just read out, everyone has a different opinion. And that's okay. People are so diverse because of all the different opinions that exist in the world. But now, before I do share my own opinion as well, I'd like to thank all of the people I've interviewed and who've given me their own thoughts on this matter. The names of those who gave permission to show their names are on the screen. Once again, thank you all so much for helping me learn about your experiences and giving me an opportunity to share them with the rest of the world. Now, as for my own opinion, yes, I do think ageism is quite an issue nowadays because there's a lot of people who began faking their ages and making false personalities just to get by or get off the hook for any trouble they may make. Now, is there a way to solve this issue with ageism? I don't think there is an exact solution, but there is something you can do now, and it is to just follow artists because you like their art and you like what they do, not because they're just a child prodigy as they say or call themselves, but rather follow artists because you love them. That's it. That is it. Besides that, do not hate, do not spread hate, and do not engage in hate. Do not encourage it. Do not even associate with hate towards young artists, old artists, new artists, beginners, nobody. Nobody is deserving of hate. Everybody should just try their best to be as positive as possible. The world is already negative enough as it is. We really don't need another sad, negative bozo who's gonna make others depressive or put others down just because of their own skill issue.